Okay. Aloha kako. Oa no Osirian Keohana Sablan. And this is my grandma, Winona May Lewis. Um, yeah. So, Grandma, what is your full name given at birth?
Winona May Lewis.
Were you named after anybody?
No, my mother picked my first name because it was an Indian name for a firstborn daughter, which I was.
Okay. Did you have any nicknames growing up?
Just one. Oh, either Nona or Nona May.
Who called you that?
Just family members, cousins, um, were Nona May, and then friends that I grew up with and went to school with called me Nona.
Okay. Um, then when and where were you born?
I was born in Wailuku, Maui, on December 4th, 1944.
And then can you tell me about your mom?
My mother, Margaret Aoi Yap, was born and raised in Hawela. She was the third oldest child of 12. She attended Maui High School and graduated from there. She was born in 1922 and lived a farm life. My grandfather was a farmer and a fisherman, so their lives were very, very simple. They ate whatever my grandfather could harvest or grow or dive for, and they seemed like a happy family.
Um, how many siblings did she have?
There were 12 of them, so she had 11 siblings.
11 siblings. Okay, same fashion. Can you tell me about your dad?
My dad, Ernest Gomes Lewis, was born in Kahului to immigrant parents. His parents both came from Portugal on one of the first ships to voyage around South America from Portugal. And he was the second youngest of 5 children. And his father was an engineer who designed some of the waterways in Sprecklesville and in Kihei. And my grandmother was a housekeeper. So she cooked and took care of the children and the house.
You know anything about their childhoods?
My parents,
Yeah. Like, did they ever tell you anything about their like upbringing?
well, I think with my mother, her camp in Powilla had a lot of relatives. So she grew up with cousins from both maternal and paternal sides. And she really enjoyed her family and playing with all of them. And she's kept close contact with her siblings and cousins. They traveled together all the time. And with my father, being one of the youngest, he was not as well. When you're brought up, you have to work outside and do a lot of the outside work for the boys and the inside work with the girls. And my father was kind of spared a lot of that because he was younger and they took care of doing it for him.
Interesting.
But what was nice is they both were educated, and my grandparents, all 4 of them were educated too, which was rare in those days.
But grandpa's or great grandpa's, his parents were educated in Portugal.
In Portugal.
Um, Who are your grandparents on your mom's and oh, you're on your mom's side, and can you tell me about them?
Who are they?
Yeah.
Um,
So grandma's parents.
my grandfather was an immigrant from Japan. Enomoto is the name he went by. And he met my grandmother in a hospital in Wailuku. My grandmother was born and raised for the first 12 years of her life in Kalapapa. Her mother was a patient and her father was a kokua. And so at 12, she, along with other children who became 12, were taken to St. Francis Children's Home on Oahu and raised there as orphans. And she, because of it was a hospital, a nursing home, she was trained in nursing. So when she came to Maui to work at Malulani Hospital, it was right on the grounds next to St. Anthony Grade School, where Halemakua is today. That was the hospital that she worked at because the St. Francis Sisters ran the hospital and St. Anthony School, the grade school. And so that's how she met my grandfather. And they were married and had 5 children.
5 children.
And all of the children were educated too, so they were fortunate.
Um, who are your grandparents on your dad's side, and then can you tell me about them? Oh wait, hold on.
Could you repeat that?
Yeah. Who are your grandparents on your dad's side, and can you tell me about them?
I don't know my grandparents on my dad's side. Oh, my dad's parents. Okay. John Lewis, born and raised in Portugal. He was educated as an engineer. My grandmother was also educated. Her name was Vicencia Vieira. And she also was from Portugal. And they decided, well, they had cousins who came over to Hawaii and found work and were able to get their own homes. And so they talked my grandfather into coming. And so he took the next ship that was sailing from Lisbon to here. And grandma was a real sweet lady. And she had quite the sense of humor. And she played the ukulele and loved to sing.
That's where we get it from. Must be in our blood.
She had a lot of friends. So they lived for a time in housing near the airport and then moved to Kihei. So my grandfather could be a manager of the water system there. And then later they moved to Kahului, where he ran the power plant in Kihei.
And then, what do you know about your great grandparents?
I don't know very much about that.
Either side?
No, on others, yeah. Either one. Like I say, one great grandparent was a patient in Kalapapa, my great grandmother's mother,
Do you know their names?
Annie Po'ai.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And I don't know my great grandfather's side. All I know is their names were actually Nakata, not Enomoto. But when he was waiting to get on the ship, they ran out of spaces. And there was one name they kept calling Enomoto to show up. And whoever it was didn't show up. So my grandfather ran up and said he was Enomoto.
So
he got on and went by that name his whole life.
I didn't know that. So wait, are there people who are Enomoto that we're like related to because of the last name, but we're not actually related to? Or did everyone that we know that's Enomoto, like they're actually our family and they used to be Nakatas too?
Most of the family members we know are all related. I don't know of other Enomotos. I know other Nemotos or Emotos, but not Enomotos.
Mhm.
But there might be an on Oahu, you know.
Wait, is that? Oh yeah, that is Ichisaburo no Kata. That's the one that you're talking about right now. Yeah,
That became Ichisaburo Enomoto.
it's interesting. I actually did not know that. I was
Mhm.
wondering where the Enemono came from. Oh, I wish we still had the Nakata in our name. That would be cool. All right. Do you have any siblings and what are their names?
I have two siblings, um, my brother Malcolm Lewis and my sister Monica Ann. She's now Rebels.
Mhm. Tell me about where you grew up.
I grew up in Wailuku, the Sand Hills area, um, and everything centered around that street for us growing up. Our friends all lived on that street, and we could walk from home to school and back, and maybe to the library, Wailuku Library. But that's as far as we went. But we walked to friends' homes, you know.
Mhm. Like like three houses down kind.
Do we what?
Like three houses down kind.
Like, you know, where we lived. As you go up the hill, and when I look at the top of the hill, that was our house. And Auntie Noreen lived in the house that she's
Oh
living
yeah.
in now.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And across the street was Auntie Jackie. So
I'm
those
sure
were
I
my
know
two
who that
best friends. And we were classmates. So.
is. Did you guys walk to school?
Mhm.
Oh, perfect. Tell me about the schools you attended.
um, well, from K through 12, I attended St. Anthony's School. It was a great school, starting with kindergarten, and went to St. Anthony High School after that. I graduated in 1962. I attended college in Minnesota, College of St. Scholastica, after graduation, and went into the nursing program.
She also became a nun for a little bit.
Oh, yes, while I was in college, I became interested in joining the convent. So I did. I was there for 7 years and taught in Minnesota, kindergarten and fifth grade. Then I decided I had enough of the snow and I missed my family, so I came home.
Good choice. What was your childhood like?
It was fun. Um, we didn't have a lot of store-bought toys, so we made toys
Hmm.
when we were at my grandmother's in Haiku, and my cousins would want to play store because my uncle across the street owned the store. So they wanted to pretend that we could make change. And so there was a bush next to my grandmother's, like a hedge. And we have it around today. It was different colors. So when it was just coming out, it was green. And then it turned white with the little pink edges.
Hmm.
And that became our coins. So, whoever had, we had dimes and we had
Which color was
the
dimes?
dimes were the whites. The greens were the pennies.
Hmm.
And then we used leaves from the mango tree, and that was our dollar bills. And then we would mark it, you know.
Oh, like a
So we did things like that, you know.
cute.
And we'd climb mango trees and or guava trees and tell spooky stories to each other. Um,
This is in high school.
in haiku, when we were in Kihei, not Kihei Kahalui, we would go look for the trees, koa trees
Hmm.
that have the sap, and we pulled the sap out, and hopefully it was um, soft, and we made jewelry out of it
With the sap?
with the sap because it was
Stretchy.
like honey, the color honey. like gold,
Uh-huh.
and we'd stretch it into different shapes, and that was our jewelry. We do a lot of pretending, a lot of pretending. So that was a lot of fun.
As kids do. What about your cousins? Like, who did you grow up with that you were close to besides?
When I was in Kihi, my Portuguese side, um, my cousin Eileen
Mm-hmm.
and her brother Neil were playmates.
Winky.
And then on the other side, my mother's side, I had my cousin Kathleen, Auntie Dingle.
Mm-hmm.
So it was mostly the ones that were near me in age. Her sister, Auntie Kitty, we played with. Um, and then with the older Enomotos, Uncle Butchie, who taught you how to fish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I remember him. Caught my first fish. How old was I? Like 6, 5.
Mm-hmm. You caught your first fish.
Mm-hmm. All right. What did you do for fun when you were my age?
Your age. Well, I worked, and then during after school hours, I went next door to Halawakua, and that was fun for me. I mean, I volunteered with the patients to sit and talk or um, change the water with the flowers in it, just little things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and otherwise, I joined different groups, like you.
Like, what clubs did you do?
Well, it's different clubs. It's um, drama club, speech. I belong to a halal, and the girls' sodality, which is our church. That was our youth group for our church. I love to read a lot. And then I played with my brother and sister.
Um, so how has the place you were raised in changed?
Okay, not just specifically my house area, but
All the different places, I guess.
everything.
Around Maui, I guess.
I think in some ways it was stricter then, and you really couldn't get into much trouble
Mhm.
because somebody would see you, and before you got home, your parents were already called, you know. And those
Yeah.
were the days when I grew up, there were no no traffic lights, so that was a long time ago. And not many people had cars. My parents did maybe. And it was a family car.
What kind of car did you guys have?
We had an Oldsmobile.
A what?
Oldsmobile.
Olds?
OLVS.
Oh, Olds.
Mm-hmm.
What color was it?
It was white.
I'm gonna go look it up later.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And then my dad um, joined Maui Dry Goods, which Auntie Noreen's family owned.
oh,
And he became part of the board of directors. So there was a sale, and Grandpa bought a little car, and
oh my
that
gosh.
became kids' car. So if we wanted to go anywhere, we drive that
Was that
car,
the green car you
the
had?
green car.
What was that again? What kind of?
Um, oh God, I
I
can't
have it in
remember.
here somewhere.
Yeah, I can't remember.
It's in here somewhere. I'll find it.
I used it to go to like none of my friends had cars.
Mhm.
So when we went to work in Lahaina at the cannery,
You would drive them.
I would drive through.
Oh,
Yeah.
green Nash Rambler.
Yes, that's what it was, a green Nash Rabbit.
It's a nice car. Was it like that one?
Yes.
Like
Only
that
thing is
color
a
or
green,
darker?
darker green.
Like that?
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Okay.
And so it was very narrow in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my friends, one of the guys he worked at trimming pineapple slices. So when we go and he'd catch a ride with us, he would have to sit in the back and he couldn't sit straight up. So he'd be across the whole seat and his feet were on one other classmate and somebody else. He laid across. It was funny. We get to Oluwalu and stop and let him stretch his legs.
Oh, you worked in Lahaina with you
Yeah.
guys? Oh my goodness. Um, so what were some of your most vivid memories from when you were a kid?
I think that having fun and being able to play whenever we wanted to, you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, there was just a lot of freedom. The kids don't have that as much anymore because there are too many dangerous things around, from cars to you name it. Yeah, so I don't know. Swimming, we'd be able to go swimming. There was a pool area in Nazca, Kahului,
Oh,
near the airport,
oh,
and it was military.
oh.
So during the summer, we'd go there too.
Did you go to the beach a lot?
Yes, we went to the beach a lot.
Anything else? Vivid
Mm.
memories? Oh, what about your story about when you made your sibling drag the cart around the house? Oh,
I don't
or
remember.
they made you drag your oh,
I'm sorry, grandma's memory is not always the best.
it's okay, Grandma. Um, I think you were younger, and then Auntie Monica and Uncle Mel were with you playing cards, and then
Oh,
they like shoved your or you shoved
Uncle Mel
someone's.
got mad because I was beating him. And you know how when you get to the end of one, like the hall, and then you have a piece of wood on the bottom, got to get over that to get
Oh
to the
yeah.
other one where the doors close. Anyway, so we got to that point and I was ahead of him. So he pushed my hip and I hit my nose on the floor. So instead of getting up and saying, stop it, I just went limp. So Auntie Monica calls Grandpa, who is at work, and says, Dad, you have to come quickly. Nona's dead. Nona's dead. Boy, did Uncle Mel get into trouble, and so did I.
That was like the one story I
Yeah.
remember you telling us from when you were younger.
When Granny used to get after us, she would take off one slipper and chase us out the door, and we'd run up into the mango trees and hide up there. And she'd say, come down. I say, come down now. And we wouldn't come down because we didn't want to get whacked with the slipper. And
See,
so Uncle Mel at the top of the tree is going, ha, 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 you can't get us.
oh no. See, once you hit a certain age,
Terrible.
I feel like, or once you become a grandparent, I feel like everyone mellows out. Because I don't know Granny is that.
No, no.
She's very, very mellow.
And we leave it to your parents to be the ones that enforce the rules
Mhm.
and scold.
That's good though.
Yeah, that's the parents' job.
Hmm. Can you tell the story of how Granny and Grandma met and then like how they got the haiku house?
Um, Granny used to work at a Chinese restaurant. Wing Sing Wo was the name of the
Wing Sing.
restaurant. It was right above St. Anthony's School. Um, and Grandpa went in there and he kind of liked her.
Mm-hmm.
So he went several times and finally asked her out for a date and they dated. And then they got married. Um, they thought they were going to have a little bit of trouble being accepted by Grandpa's side of the family. But no, they liked Granny.
Mm-hmm.
So um, they lived in Wailuku for a little bit. Um, and then they built their house on Sand Hills. And we lived there until I was 19. I was away at college. I came home and Grandpa said, bought a house in Haiku. He sat us all down. And we went to Haiku to look at it the next day. And Auntie Monica and Uncle Mel cried and cried because it was way in nowhere. And the grass, the sugarcane grass was really high. The window, we had to walk up a dirt road. There was no driveway. And the windows were French style windows, they opened
I
up.
like the French style.
And the kitchen windows, I guess somebody threw rocks or the birds hit it, but they were damaged. And there was going to be a lot of work to get that place in shape.
Mhm.
But they worked at it. I left to go back to college and the convent, and they worked and worked until they got it into beautiful shape. It sits on top of a hill,
Yes, it
and
is.
it overlooks most of Hawela, that whole camp area. But you can see Molokai from there on a clear day, and the West Maui Mountains. Mhm.
Yeah.
So right now, Haiku has become a much desired place to live. So, but in those days,
Too
not
far.
very many, yeah. So it was hard for Uncle Mel and Auntie Monica to have school activities because they had to come home by a certain time.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was hard on them.
Interesting. Oh, and wait, how about like, remember Granny? What's she said that was like her dream house.
Oh, yes. Yeah, Granny said that. When she was younger and she'd take the bus to Maui High, and it was at the old Maui High School. And so it would happen that the bus would travel from Oella, past the cannery, and go around in the back, which is where Granny's house was. And she'd look up there and she'd say, someday I'd love to live in that house. And it happened. Her dream came true.
What a nice surprise.
Mhm.
Tell me about your jobs.
My jobs.
Mhm.
Well, you heard me say when I was in high school, I worked in the pineapple cannery.
Mhm.
And then I also, with the halau, I entertained at Maui Palms and at different hotel venues
Mhm.
in Lahaina and at Fleming's Beach when they had luau's. After that, I helped tutor students during the summer or after school, depending on my other things, other organizations I belong to. And then I taught when I went to school in Minnesota. I taught in the garden, 5th grade, and swimming to the 8th grade girls. Then I came back home and got a job working at St. Anthony's Church as a secretary. Um, then my aunt needed to go to California to take care of a sick son. And so I worked as a secretary at Norman's Mortuary for 3 months.
Mhm.
Then a job opened up at St. Anthony Grade School. So the 5th grade position was open and I began teaching there. And after 3 years, I went to the DOE and taught 4th grade, and then back to St. Anthony 6th grade. So I was there a long time.
You didn't like it at DOE?
But it was okay, but I worked in Lahaina.
Oh,
And it was far for me. There was nothing open in Central Maui.
was that Lahaina Luna?
No, King Kamehameha,
Oh.
Cam third. And I had the 2 boys and they had different sports that they were in. So trying to work out, getting them to different practices
Mhm.
and trying to get back to Wailuku was hard. Um, yeah. And then, I can't remember, 18 years maybe I taught. And then I became principal at St. Anthony Grade School.
And you retired about
around 2016. Then they called me back for a year.
almost 10 years.
Called me back for a year, and after that year was over, the preschool asked me to come.
I remember.
So I worked preschool for a year and a half.
Mhm.
And then I really retired because your grandmother needed help. She was getting a little weaker and needed supervision.
Okay, I want to pause it real quick. Okay, so who is your spouse and how did you meet?
Um, my spouse is Richard Martinez, and we met in Lahaina.
At one of your shows or oh no, you're in high school.
At a show.
Oh really?
Mhm.
How old were you?
Oh, golly,
Um,
maybe 30,
Oh, 30.
31. Yeah,
All right.
I'd have to, yeah, I'm calculating that in my head, 31.
Okay. What are your kids' names?
Um, my oldest, I have two sons. The oldest is Carl Kalani Sablan, and the second is Kevin Keli'i Sablan.
What about your Hanai kids?
I have two Hanai kids. The oldest is Selena Martinez, and her brother Richard Martinez, the second.
Yeah. All right. So now, like nowadays, what do you enjoy doing for fun?
I enjoy going out to eat lunch with friends and
And
classmates.
her sister.
I don't have to worry about whether I work. Our schedules are flexible. So we go to lunch and we celebrate things like birthdays and classmates coming home. I enjoy that. I enjoy reading, um, helping out at church, and doing puzzles. Um,
She has one going on outside. Um, so what are some important things in your life that you've witnessed or experienced? That's a hard question. Like you can go in a lot of different directions with this.
some things that I have witnessed.
Mhm.
Um, a light bulb that goes on when a student figures something out. He's had a hard time learning, and all of a sudden, he's got it. That's exciting to me that you can work with students, and there's always a way for them to grow. Because that's my career and I love it.
Mhm.
Um, Other important things to me were my children being born, and there's with my children and my grandchildren, they're my most precious gifts. Um,
What can I say?
I wouldn't have, I just feel so blessed all the time.
Anything else?
No, I think I was born where I was supposed to be born, and I'm really lucky, you know.
Okay. Who or what is the biggest influence?
Here.
Wait. Who or what is the biggest influence in your life and why?
Um, my parents, my father, because education was so important to him, and he kept stressing it and supporting us in any way he could to get us to finish our education and go beyond. He was also very influential in the community, joining many different clubs. And he started Big Brothers, and it wasn't Big Brothers, Big Sisters at the time, but just Big Brothers. He was the founder of that. Um, and he just did so many things. I don't know how many occupations he had, but he was a very smart man.
Mhm.
And my mother, she was the most patient, kindest, sweetest lady ever. I don't think she had a bad thing ever to say about anyone. She never judged. And she always had a smile on her face.
So your parents are your biggest influence. Oh, oh, thanks, Papa. Thank you. What would you like to, wait, sorry, how would you like to be remembered?
Um, I guess as a kind friend, someone who never judged others and who helped, went out of their way to help others.
And from like religious aspect, I think you'll probably be remembered for that too. Lady of God, woman of God.
What about her?
I think that's also how you will be remembered.
Oh, thank you.
Well, that's all the questions today.
Okay, thank you. You gave
Thank
me
you,
your
Grandma.
French fries.
Thank you, Papa, for bringing my French fries.
Oh my gosh. When he gets something on his mind, he has to finish it. He has to do it. He cannot wait 5 minutes. That's Papa.
There we have it. Okay, bye, guys.